How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the first PTR episode. We're going to take a look at some new races we're going to get in the next patch. So we're going to take a look at the Zandalari Trolls in this episode, and then in a separate video, I'll go and take a look at the Culturan Humans, which is the Alliance side. So we get a new race for the Alliance, and we get a new race for the Horde. Now, what we're going to take a look in this episode is, first of all, character customization. As you can see, I did already create one character here, because I needed one so we can actually set up the spells and everything correctly for showing off the actual character a little bit later on. But I will start out by showing the character customization. Then we're going to talk about the starting zone, racial mounts, druid forms, and some of the animations that we have, including fighting animations, as well as some of the emotes we have as these trolls here. So let's go ahead and take a look at the create new character customization. If you were to go in here, you'll actually notice that we do have some new changes based off some of the other videos I've actually seen on YouTube that shows off some different customizations options, because right now we don't have any placeholder images inside the races over here. So now we can actually see we have the Zandalari Trolls. If we were to switch to the females, you can also see that we have the female versions as well, which is kind of neat. Now we're going to go and take a look at the males first, and then we're going to go and take a look at the females afterwards, because I will be testing out a female, so why not just end off with a female. If I were to take a look at the male, you can see we have many different classes. The only classes we can't play is the Warlock, and I don't really know the decision behind that. There might be some kind of lore decision behind it that I don't know of. If you do know what it is, then be my guest to share it in the description, because I do want to know what exactly the reason is, or in the comments, not in the description. We can't play the Demon Hunter either, for obvious reasons. And again, for obvious reasons, the Zandalari Trolls can't be Death Knights, because they weren't part of the story when Wrath of the Lich King came out back when we got Death Knight, so they can't be Death Knights either, even though I have heard people talk about how cool it will be to have a Zandalari Death Knight. Now, going into the actual customization options, I just want to mention that for some reason, some people are getting some errors where even though we do have BFA bots, we can't gain access to the class trial. As you can see, if we were to choose it, it says unable to create a class trial character because you're using a trial account, which I'm not. I do actually have the full version, including BFA bot, but for some reason a lot of people are getting that error message still. Now, before we move into the customization, I do want to point out a couple of things when it comes to the classes and the racial abilities. So if we were to go and take a look at the Hunter, you can actually see we get a Hunter pet that has now been added in, where we, in the past, when it came to the PTR servers, had a placeholder. But now you can actually see we have a Zandalari pet that you will actually get as a Zandalari Troll. And it looks like a Triceratops, I do believe you call it. It looks kind of nice. I like the rainbow colors to it. And when it comes to the Shaman, we also have totems. And I really like these new totems when it comes to the Zandalari. As you can see, it looks kind of like the golden pillars that we have inside the Zandalari, inside the Zandalar. With all the different, pillars and gold and red and that sort of thing. So we have the same theme going on here when it comes to the totems, which I really like. Now, the last class that we had changes for is the Druid. And the Druid actually got the most changes, because as a Druid, we will get some new different Druid forms. So we can be, a new tiger form, new bear form, new travel form, all that stuff is going to be new. And that's why we're going to take a Druid when we do actually enter the game, in order to test out what is new with the characters, such as racial abilities and that sort of thing. Which brings me to the actual racial abilities. If we were to click down on more info, you can actually see we have 4 racial abilities. One is that we can beseech Aloe, obtaining 1 of 6 powerful boons, which essentially means that we can choose a specific buff that we're going to get with our troll. And this is a really nice feature, because depending on if you're tanking, if you're dealing damage, if you're a ranged damage dealer, there's a lot of different options you have here for a buff that you can choose. And a lot of people call this OP, because essentially you're getting a really nice customizable option here, where you can play the Zandalari Trolls and essentially play any sort of class and have that ability have an impact on the specific class you're choosing, which I think is kind of nice. You can also have a ability that actually allows for you to summon a Pterodax, if that's how you say it, that reduces your falling speed. Now, not only that, but it actually simulates a Goblin Glider, which is the thing you use in order to travel glide a certain distance. If you were to jump down from a mountain or a hill or something, then you can glide for a certain distance. And it does the exact same thing as that, so that's a really nice detail as a racial ability. You can also concentrate to heal yourself rapidly over a short time. Right now, I do believe that is set as a 100% full heal that you can instantly cast, which is really powerful if you think about it. Imagine just getting, you know, out of combat really quick, or really quickly while in combat, just healing yourself up to full health. That is really OP in my mind. So these abilities up here would be nice to have, but adding this extra ability of healing yourself completely, unless they change that of course, so it's just partially healing, is really overpowered in my head. But it's a nice feature to have, but just a little bit OP compared to other classes. We also have the ability to discover more gold from creatures, so if we were to kill creatures, then we get more gold, depending on, you know, whether we kill creatures or we, you know, do something else. So yeah, that's the abilities. We're gonna go and take a look at those a little bit more in depth once we do actually get into the game. For now, let's go ahead and take a look at the customization options. So if we were to go in here, you can actually see we have skin colors, face, hairstyle, hair color, tattoo style, tusks, and earrings. Now starting off, let's actually go ahead and take a look at these skin colors. We have a couple of different skin colors to choose from. I really like the, the tone of skin colors we're getting here, because they're not too exaggerated. They're actually very low key, but with a certain color tint to them, and I really enjoy that because I really feel like they hit the colors straight on. So these are some really, really good color options, I think, when it comes to picking a skin color. Just gonna go ahead and choose a default one for now, then we're gonna go into the face. And we have many different facial options here. We can choose this one, and really the major differences you'll see here is we have these sort of dinosaur looking spots on their faces that changes depending on which skin or which facial expression we choose. So you can see we get a couple of different options here. And I guess these are also a replacement for beard, because we don't have beards as Zandalari, but we do get these spots down here instead. So there are some really cool options here, I think, for different facial expressions. One thing I did notice is that a lot of the facial expressions look very angry, but again, based on the actual story, when you play the Horde side, you know, where you assist the Zandalari Trolls, they don't really seem that angry, so I guess it's just unlucky for them they have a really angry facial expression. So we're just gonna go and choose one here, then we're gonna move on to the hairstyle. When it comes to the hairstyles, we have two different color schemes going on. We have gold and we have red. So depending on which hairstyle you choose, you may or may not have some gold and red jewelry inside your hair, or headbands. So we'll just scroll down, you can see we have, first of all, bald. Then we can choose a smaller mohawk. Then we have this, ponytail with a golden piece of jewelry and a red hairband going around it. Again, matching the Zandalari theme inside Zandalar. And then we have the big mohawk. Then we have a, what I would like to call a heavy metal kind of look to it. Then we have a 1960s hairstyle that looks like, you know, something from Fonts or something. So if you're into that sort of hairstyle, then I guess you can choose that one. Then we have this one. Now, I'm a personal sucker for hairstyles that has hair going across the chest. The only thing I think is a little bit limited here is the fact that we have all the red inside our buns here, which means that we have a limit when it comes to certain transmogs, because some transmogs don't look good in red. Gold is okay, because we can do transmog still using gold, but red is a bit less punishable, or just not as good to use in certain transmogs. Then we have a Paul Phoenix haircut. If you played Tekken back in the days, then this is the haircut that he has. He might still have it in Tekken, because I do think there's newer Tekken games coming out there. But this is definitely something that looks very similar to what Paul Phoenix has in Tekken. Then we have this hairstyle, kind of licked back behind him. I really like this one, because there's also a very low-key hairstyle with a couple of different pieces of jewelry in the hair, but not something that's really over-the-top looking. Then we have a ponytail going behind him. Now, when it comes to hair, one thing I think is important is that we're able to see the hair from the back, because most of the time we're going to be looking at our character from the back. So if you choose a hairstyle that only looks good from the front, you're not really gonna see it most of the time. Then it's more for other people's sake. So this sort of hairstyle I really enjoy because it's something that we actually see as the person actually playing this character. This one is kind of interesting because we're getting a crown. I'm not a fan of it, but if you feel like a king, then you do have the option here to actually look like a king. So that is something to take into account as well. We do also have the ponytail with the red band going around it. Then we have a short hairstyle. This is a very neutral looking one. It's not very special besides that it's licked back a little bit. But I think this is a good looking short hairstyle if that's what you want. Going into hair color, we also have some of the default hair colors. We have black, we have kind of greenish, we have kind of reddish. I would say this is kind of like a strawberry champagne looking color. And then we have white. Don't mind the sort of pinkish glow. I think that's from the background that's reflecting into the hairstyle. If we were to choose white, I do think our character is going to have a white hairstyle. Then we have a lighter version of the dark hair. And then we have red, or kind of pinkish. I think that's pink. It might be red. It's a mixture of them, if you ask me. So those are the hairstyles. Let's just go and pick a black one just so we have something default. Tattoo style. We also have tattoos as Zandalari. And these look very Mayan Indian, to me at least. I don't know a lot about Mayan Indians, but this kind of looks like the sort of tribal thing that they have. If you've seen that movie called Road to El Dorado, which is a kid's movie, then they do kind of simulate that style from the movie. So that's why I call this a Mayan Indian sort of tattoo style. We also have tusk styles. And these are actually very interesting when it comes to the men, because we do have a couple of default ones like this one right here that sort of points up. We have the one that points out. These are very similar to what the basic trolls have with the default characters, or the old troll race we've always been able to play. And then we have something like this, where we do have some jewelry, but we also have some gravings or engravings inside the tusks, which I think is a really cool look to them. I think this might be my favorite tusk style of all the different tusks that we have here. Then we have a smaller version, just a default one. Then we have a larger one without the jewelry, but still we have the engravings, which I think is really nice looking. Then we have a type that sticks up, but still has the jewelry on it. And then we have this one. You might be thinking this is a gold tusk, but if you were to look at it from the back, it actually looks like a piece of jewelry that has been put around his tusk. So you can actually see that it separates there, and it's actually something going around his tusks. So it's not his actual tusks being gold, it's something around it. But I think this one looks really nice, and if that's something that people would be picking, I think it's something that would look very nice to them. Let's go and pick the one that I like, which is this one. The last one we have down here is the earrings. One thing you're gonna notice is that the men gets the options of having eyebrow ring and nose rings, but it also comes with certain default customizations of the earrings. So if I were to take this one, you can see we have a couple of earring options. If I were to go down, then you can see we also get one of these stretchy earrings down in the earlobe, but we also get this nose ring, and this nose ring comes with a default together with these pairs of earrings. If I were to scroll down, we also get the eyebrow ring, which again comes with the stretchy earrings. If I scroll down, we get on both sides. Then we have on just one side, but with larger stretchy earrings. And then at the bottom here, we have no earrings. So if you want to have the eyebrow ring or the nose ring, but you don't want to have earrings, you can't do that with the male trolls. However, if you were to pick a female troll, you do actually get the option to pick accessories, which is the facial rings and stuff. And you can pick the earrings on the side. So that's something that you have to keep in mind if you want to choose a female character. I don't know why they haven't incorporated that into the male character. That would be a suggestion. But that's just how things are right now. Again, with the female, we have the same skin colors. We have variants of different tones. So we have greenish, we have bluish, reddish, we have dark, then we have green again, and then we have a bright version. So we have the same tones as with the guys. Going into the face, we have somewhat different styles that includes different types of these dinosaur marks that we have on the face. I don't know what you would call those. I call them dinosaur marks because I don't have another word for them. And they change depending on which face you choose. Now, just with the regular trolls that we've always been able to play, we get this one specific phase that if you don't like the troll look, then you can choose something like this one that doesn't have these exaggerated troll features in their faces. And I don't know if that's because females were complaining about, you know, it was too mandy or something. Then they wanted a more girly version, but this one definitely looks a lot more clean than these ones here. So the troll features has sort of been, you know, toned down a little bit. And I think that's good to have. I think that's a good option to have. But it's not something I'm going to be picking when I choose a Zandalari Troll. Because I do actually plan to, in the future, transfer my character over to a Zandalari Troll. Because I think they look good. So these are some different options we have for the faces. Going on to the next one, we have hairstyles. We're just going to take it from the top. As you can see, we get a lot of different hairstyles. We do have this one that has the side cut, where you don't have any hair on one side, but you have hair on the other side, and then it's sort of combed over. And this is the short hairstyle for the women. Now, if we were to compare this to the hairstyle of the regular trolls that we always had access to, then the regular trolls had a very weird style to it. It looked very mandy, if you had to ask me. And these look a lot better when it comes to feminine trolls if they want short hair. So I definitely like the hairstyle here a lot better, and I do think we'll get more short hairstyles when we get further down. I'm just not that happy about the default trolls short hairstyles because they look mandy, and I have another word to describe it, but I'm not gonna say it while making a YouTube episode because it might be offensive to some people. So, but it looks a lot better with the new trolls here. The next one here, you can see we do actually get a ponytail, and we also get the hair down at the bottom, down along the back. We do again get some of these different color schemes going on with the hair accessories. This time around, I don't think we're getting any red, but it's going to be brown and it's going to be gold, which I think is a lot better combination because it allows for better customization with transmogs. Then we have this next one, which is another version where we have the hair going back behind the back, and it's sort of wrapped up in a brown piece of hairband. We do also get a piece of jewelry up at the top here with a skull, which is something that's interesting. The next one here, we get sort of a similar hairstyle, but more braided. And I do think this one looks a lot better, personally, because I don't really like this hair going all over the place. It kind of looks like a undead priestess or something, whereas this one is just a little bit more low-key, a little bit more default, which I personally think looks very good. Then we also have this hairstyle, which is actually my favorite hairstyle because I'm a sucker for, like I said, when the hair goes down in front of the chest. And having this hairstyle that you can see from the back looks very interesting, and from the front goes in front of the chest, so you have something to look at here as well. It's just something I think looks very cool. And I love the fact that we have the gold jewelries with the hair, so we don't get any sort of color mix-ups that mixes with transmogs. And I'm also a sucker for these sort of, you know, side cuts for the women here, so I think this looks very cool. With the next one here, we have another one. This kind of looks like a Victorian sort of, you know, hair bun behind your head style, if you ask me. It might not be, but that's what I sort of get from this. And we also get these hairbands going down the back. We again have a couple of, what do you call it, ponytails going in front of the body with skulls on them. So that's also a style that you could go for if you think this is a really cool style to have skulls. Then we have a mohawk, and this is probably, again, also one of my favorites when it comes to the females, because not only do we get a mohawk, but as you can see, we don't just have a boring, you know, no hair on the side sort of thing going on. We do actually have braided hair going down across the back, and not only does this look cool from the front, it also looks cool from the back. So this is, again, a really, really cool hairstyle. I do actually think this is the hairstyle I might go with when I pick a female troll once we do actually get them available in the next patch. Then we have this one. This is a lot more low-key sort of hairstyle. It looks very simple. We have the hair going down one side, and then we have the hair going back on the other side with a piece of jewelry. Then we just have the hair going back on the back. Again, I'm a sucker for simple hairstyle as well, so this is actually one that I think is really cool looking. And this is also one I might consider at some point in the future. Then we have this one. This is with a hair bun going on the back as well with a ponytail, with the hair sort of shaved at the front of the troll. And this is just sort of a theme that we have going on with trolls, I noticed, also with the default trolls. So it's nice that we have this option here as well, if that was something that you wished to have from the default trolls going into the Zandalari. The next one we're going to talk about is hair color, and this is the exact same thing as the males. The only difference here is that for some reason in the customization options, we get the reddish, pinkish hairstyle at the top here, instead of it being at the bottom if I were to scroll down here. So as you can see, we do actually have the hair in the same colors as with the men. And again, you can kind of see here that it does look white. It doesn't look pink, it's just because the background is reflecting on it. So picking a default hairstyle or hair color, let's go into the accessories. Inside the accessories, you can see we can choose different types of jewelry that we get on the face. We do have nothing. And then we sort of have this neck bracelet that sort of simulates some photos I've seen on tribes and that sort of thing, where people, they stretch their necks to become longer. That's probably not what this is, but it looks very similar to that. And it's just kind of a neat thing if you like something that looks like it's protecting your neck or something. Then we also have this one, which is the lip ring. I really, really like this one. This is a really cool one. I might choose this one as a default when I get my troll in the future. Then we have a nose ring, and then we have an eyebrow ring, and we have 2 earrings on each side. So this is something that I think is really cool when it comes to customization options, because we can choose sort of the facial styles and the earrings separate, which you'll notice that once we do actually get down to the earrings here. Let's actually skip ahead to the earrings, because I do think we need to take these first. When it comes to earrings, we can also choose separate earrings besides the one that I just showed you with the accessories. And again, I don't know why the males can't do this. It would be neat if they could, but this is just how they designed it. When it comes to the earrings, we only have 2 styles. We have the stretchy ones, and we have 2 different sizes we can choose. So in my case, I'm just not going to stick with one because I'm not a fan of earrings. I'm just going to keep it default here. Tattoo styles are very similar to the men. So again, we get these sort of tribal looking tattoos going around the body. This is something you can choose to have or not have. In my case, I'm just going to leave it off. Then we can choose the tusks. And these are very, very basic. Compared to the men, where we had the option to engrave them, we had jewelry on them. With the females, they just look very basic, which is kind of sad. But, I guess when it comes to trolls, they just don't have as big tusks. So we can actually have these options for it. So these are the customization options we have when it comes to the Zandalari Trolls. Let's actually go ahead and log in with an actual character and see how the different animations, how the forms look like, racial mounts and so on inside the game.
The Zandalari have ruled this land for thousands of years. With the Loa's blessing, our sacred blades and mighty ships commanded the seas. But over time, our empire grew stagnant. We stood alone. Threats from without and within rose up to challenge us, to test our faith. Now, I am queen. And together with the Horde, we take our rightful place among the great kingdoms of Azeroth. Zandalari forever!
Now, as you can see, we have the character right in front of me here, and the first thing you're gonna notice is that it just looks mind-boggling beautiful with the characters. I mean, you can't just help sitting here for a little while, just taking in how awesome the eyes look when they glow in the dark, with the characters with the dinosaur marks on the face. I just think it looks incredibly awesome, and it's probably the coolest race I've seen in World of Warcraft so far. But again, that's just a personal opinion. I just think it looks so incredibly good. So when it comes to this race here, you'll actually notice that I chose a Druid. And the reason for that, like I said, is that we get a couple of different Druid forms with these races here. Let's go ahead and talk about the racial abilities first. So if we were to go outside, I can actually show them off. Now, when it comes to racial abilities, we do actually have quite a few as a Zandalari race. And the one I want to talk about here to begin with is the one called Embrace of the Lower. Now, Embrace of the Lower allows for you to choose between 6 different buffs and then give one of those buffs to you. So as you can see inside our spell book, we're going to have 2 different spells. We're going to have one that is going to be the actual buff. In this case here, as a default, it gave me Embrace of Paku, that gives my abilities a chance to grant a 4% critical strike for 12 seconds. And the other spell we have is the one called Embrace of the Lower. And this is the one we can actually click on in order to change our abilities or our buff. Now, it does require that you have a shrine near you. So I went ahead and went down to a shrine. And as you can see right now, if I were to take a look at the map, I'm right on the left side, ha ha ha. I'm on the left side of the Great Seal, right over here where we have a shrine. So if we were to go up here, I can actually go ahead, click my ability. It is going to load it up. And then you can see we get the option of changing our abilities. So right now it gave me Embrace of One Samdi. It's a really difficult one to say. So we can do this one and then change the buff that we're going to get. Now you might be asking me, how do I choose the buff that I'm going to get? Because when I click the button, it just sort of changed it immediately into the Embrace of One Samdi. And that's because right now I'm actually at his shrine. So therefore I'm going to get his specific buff on myself. So as you can see, it actually changed to Embrace of One Samdi, which gives my damaging abilities a chance to deal 28 shadow damage and heal me for 100% of the damage done. So as you can see, we sort of changed our buff here. And again, just to point it out in case somebody is still confused about it, we have many different shrines all over Zandalar inside the city here, and you can just go ahead and go over to the shrine that you want to get the buff from and, you know, get the buff that you want to get. I will go ahead and put a image here on the screen that tells you about the different buffs you'll get depending on which shrine you go to, so go ahead and check those out and pause the screen if you need to see them for a little bit longer. The next ability we're going to look at is the one called Pterodactyl Swoop, which is the one I told you was very similar to the Goblin Glider that allows you to glide around for a short period of time. So if I were to go ahead and click this spell as I jump over the edge here, you'll notice that we start hovering. And we're actually doing that by flying on top of a pterodactyl. So we can just sort of hover around and do that until we hit the ground, which is a really nice ability to have, I think. I do believe the cooldown is 15 minutes, so that's actually quite decent. And we got an achievement on top of it. So this is a really neat little thing that I think is really good to have in some moments in the game where you want to go down, but you don't want to kill yourself. And then the last ability we're going to talk about is the regeneration ability, which is called Regenerating, which I guess is some kind of troll slang way of saying it. What this does is that it regenerates 100% of your maximum health over 6 seconds, and it will get interrupted by damage. So you sort of need to be isolated in order to do this. Now, I don't know about you, but this is probably the most powerful healing spell racial ability that you could possibly get. If I were to jump down, just to lose some health, as you can see we lost a little bit here. If I were to click it, we very quickly get full health, which is, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, it's very cool to have, but playing against somebody who has this, especially when I'm a Feral Druid, because Feral Druid do have a tendency to go in, fire off all their buffs, and then get out of combat again, by rooting or stunning or something, and then just sort of get away. Doing this is essentially a free full health, which is nice if you play this race, but if you play against somebody, like I said, you're gonna be a little bit down because of that. But it's a very cool ability, I think. Now, this next section here should probably have shown you at the beginning, but this is in fact the starting area where we do actually start out as a Zandalar. So, as you can see, we start up at the top here, where we're right by Queen Talanji. And she does give us a quest that we can choose to do called For the Horde. And this is basically just the intro quest to get you started so you can actually start leveling up and get to level 120. So this is the spot where you do start up, and this is the intro quest. So if you do want to read that quest, you can actually go ahead and do that really quickly. Oh, and in case you just want to see it, here is in fact a hunter that does have a hunter pit out. So if you want to see how the hunter pit looks like, this is how it looks like. You might as well get that one out of the way since there is a player here who has it. Very nice looking, I think. And now we reach a moment that I like to call the moment you've been waiting for, because I know a lot of you have been watching are just waiting to see the different druid forms. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at these one at a time and just see, you know, how they actually look like, and then afterwards we're going to take a look at some of the combat animations of some of the different forms. So to go with here, to start with, let's go ahead and look at the tiger form or the feral form. The next form we're going to look at is the tank form for the Guardian Druid, and this one actually looks very different from the typical bear form that all the other druids have. So as you can see, if I were to transform into it here, you can see we turn into this dinosaur looking turtle, which is not a turtle, I realize that. It is actually very similar to that dinosaur that has that thing on its tail that it uses to swing at opponents, but just without the tail. So this is the bear form, and I think it looks so incredibly cool that we don't have the bear anymore, but instead we have something that actually looks like it can take a beating. We have all these spikes in the back, we have the typical tattoo that the druids have on the arm. We do also have a little bit of jewelry going around the arms as well, just like with the tiger form. And we're just going to go ahead and take a look at some different animations that it has when it walks around and runs and jumps and that sort of thing. The new travel form we get with the Zandalari Trolls is also very different from the default ones that we had with the other druids. In this case here, instead of turning into a stag, we turn into a raptor, which is very cool looking. So if we were to just go ahead and shift into it here, you can actually see it. There we go. Right with the nose in our faces. And as you can see, we get again a raptor that has these glowing eyes that are very similar to how the Zandalari looks like, but we also get some of these different jewelries that we recognize from the Zandalari Trolls with the gold, the red, and in this case a little bit of blue. We also get a little bit of jewelry on the tusks that we have here. So I'm just going to go ahead and show off some different animations we have when it comes to walking around and running around with the travel form. Now you might be asking me, what am I doing in the water? Well, we also need to take a look at the new travel form when it comes to the water area. So if we were to jump into a pool of water, as you know, our travel form turns into a aquatic animal. So if we were to go and take a look at how this looks like, you can actually see, if we were to actually turn into it here, kind of reminds me of that one in the new Jurassic Park movie that jumps up and takes out the helicopter. So we have this very cool looking primordial beast. And in my opinion, I just think that this sort of primordial beast looks a lot better than had they chosen a shark or a fish or something like that. Because this is just something that we don't really see unless you transform into it as a druid. So this is very cool looking. I especially like the details about having jewelry around it, around the tusk as well. And you can also see we have sort of a thing jiggling around underneath the cheek or underneath the chin, which I think is very cool looking. Is somebody just trying to shoot me? I saw a harpoon fire off right next to me. And there's some people up there trying to shoot me. Wait a second, where did my character go? So as you can see, we do actually have a last animal form that we need to look at, which is the moonkin form that you get as a balanced druid. So it looks very, very, very different from the chicken monster that we got when we had the default skins. This is again also a sort of chicken monster, but it looks more like a dinosaur, you know, one of the ones we actually fly around on, instead of the big chicken that we had as a default. Now, a lot of people dislike this form and a lot of people like this form. Personally, I think anything is better than the default chicken monster that we can actually turn into as a balanced druid. I always chose the glyph inside the auction house, which actually allow for you to turn into a astral form instead of the chicken monster. And when it comes to these, I'm actually fairly okay with how these look like. Now, it does feel a little bit weird with the running animation. I don't know if this is something that is going to stick to the game. I don't know if you can sort of tell, but it looks a little bit stiff. It doesn't feel as natural flowy with the animations. I like the look of it, but I think they should update maybe how they with the animations are going. Again, it's not something crucial, but it's just something that would be nice if it doesn't feel as stiff when you move around. Like I kind of feel like I'm moving around a stick instead of an actual creature, if I had to describe it in some sort of way. So let's just go and take a look at a couple of the animations we have with this creature. As you can see, we can also walk with it. It looks very sassy when it walks around. I like it. So I'm one of the people that obviously like this form, you know, compared to the default one. They could have chosen something else. I would probably have been fine with it as well, because anything is better than the big chicken monster. Some people will disagree with me on that, but that's just my personal opinion. I kind of like how Predator it looks like. Like, it looks like it's about to go and chew on a bunch of bones somewhere. Like, it looks ominous, which I kind of dig about it. So, yeah, I really like this form. I like that you actually see the weapon there in the back. I don't like the fact that it's sort of hovering. I just noticed that. Like, it's not really attached to anything. But I guess it's not something that you're gonna, like, it's not gonna make the game unplayable that you can't see the weapon attached to something in the back. But that would be a nice little detail to maybe add in at some point. Now, I almost forgot about this one, but we do actually have one more druid form we need to look at, which is the flying form. And I do need to apologize because, as I said in the beginning, we can't get a trial character, we can only get a level 20 character, so we can't really see the flying form in person. But what I went ahead and did here is I just sort of looked it up on WoW in order to show you how it would actually look like. And as you can see, it looks like a pterodactyl, if that was how you said it, which is similar to the racial ability we had where you could actually hover down, kind of like the goblin glider. So we get a similar shape as that one. And to be honest, I'm not really sure what to think about this one, because I'm really happy about my Legion flying form, or the class mount you get once you do actually get the class mount for the druid. So going from that to this one is something I have to consider a little bit, because I want to actually see it in person before I make that decision whether or not I should have the Legion flying form or the regular racial flying form. And now that I have it open, let's actually talk about the different color combinations we can have for all the different druid forms. And this is not something I can show on the PTR server, because I do believe it is locked at one specific color. Whatever hairstyle you might choose, it's just going to be that one color. So if you want to see the different color combinations, we're going to have to go online, and that's why I'm recording the screen here. Now, there's some advertisement here. Let's actually go and get rid of that with my programming skills from mmtuts.
You can find a link to mmtuts in the link below this video.
And that's how you remove advertisement from websites. So what we have here is the different color combinations we can get as a druid, and it's the same color combinations we're gonna get as a tank and as a feral. So they just sort of repeats themselves throughout the different forms. Now these will change depending on your hairstyle. So if you choose a hair color, the form is going to change according to that. So certain hair colors will give the tint of blue, which we have up here at the top. Then you can also choose a hair color that gives the sort of darker version, which I do believe was the one we saw inside the PTR server. And then we have a greenish version down here with a brownish kind of shell. I like this one because it has some different color combinations in just one single color. And then we have the one at the bottom here, which is a whiter version. And as you can see, we do have very beautiful color combinations. I really like these colors, so I'm not disappointed when it comes to the color combinations. Now, I should probably mention that inside the PTR server, you may notice that we were just doing one color, and I could technically go down to a barber and change my hair color. But because it is the PTR server, I do believe we only have one color available to us. So no matter which color I change my hair to, I would just still have that one color for my druid. I don't know if they changed that, but that's at least how it's been for the longest time now with the PTR server. So you can kind of see the color combinations here. When it comes to the cat form, it's the exact same thing. We also have the bluest tint here if you want to do that. We do also have a darker version, which I think looks really intimidating and really cool. Then we have a green version down here. And then we have the last one down here, which is the white version, which I also think looks very nice when it comes to the eyes glowing and sort of matching up with the rest of the skin here. As well as when it comes to the Moonkin form, we do also have a Incarnation form, which is when we buff our Moonkin for a short period of time with a spell in order to become a little bit more powerful. And when we do that, we do get a different form, which looks like this one down here. So as you can see, we get a little bit more jewelry going on. We have a little bit more of accessories when we do buff ourselves with this Incarnation form. And also when it comes to the aquatic form, we do also have different color combinations. So as you can see, we have the green one, we have the white one, and then we have the blue one. And I don't know why we can't see the black one. Maybe there isn't a black one. I hope there is, because it should kind of match up with the different skin colors we can get with the other forms. So we'll see if that is something that gets added a little bit later on. In this next section here, we're going to take a look at some of the different combat animations we have with the different forms. So right now you can see I'm actually turned into a Moonkin, since that's where we left off the previous section. And we're just going to go ahead and test out some of the different animations on one of the target dummies. Now, one thing I really like about these animations when it comes to the Moonkin form is the fact that when we use astral power, he actually tries to gather it from the sky, whereas if we're using the nature power, you can actually see he's gathering it from in front of him. So we do have a separation of the different types of spellcasting that we can do as a Moonkin form. And I think that's a really neat detail when it comes to it. Now, as you may know, we also have a feral form, and this one also has some really cool animations when it comes to fighting. Some may say they're very basic, but I think they look very cool based off what we have here as a dinosaur walking around slashing opponents. So let's go and take a look at how some different forms look like, or how the animations look like when we do actually use the feral form. So again, I'm only level 20, so I only have some of the abilities, but it should be enough to sort of tell you how the different abilities actually look like when we do use them on target dummies. So if we were to walk up here, you can see we start slashing, do a little bit of rip, slashing, apply some bleeds, there we go, and close off with a finisher. Now the finisher animation kind of looks a little bit wonky in my opinion, so if we were to take a look at it again, you can see it kind of glitches to the back and then moves forward. So I don't know if that is something they're going to take a look at. But as it is right now, it kind of looks a little bit glitchy, if you may see it there. Just going to use it again. There we go. Oh, they'll have a little bit of lag going on there. It is a PTR server, so we'll have a few lag spikes. Spikes, it's called. And again, there, as you can see. So it is a little bit... And again here, so you can see it. Now, it does look a little bit glitchy to me. I don't know what you guys think, but I think it looks a little bit glitchy. I mean, it looks cool, and I love the fact that we have this feral form. I just wish it didn't look that glitchy when we use this specific attack here with this form. When it comes to the stealth animations, we do also have stealth as a feral. So if I were to go ahead and go into stealth, you'll see that it looks something like this. Now, I don't know about you, but the glowing eye, while in stealth, looks incredible. I think it's really cool to see that we have this glowing eye kind of hiding in the bushes, waiting for prey, and then you charge out, and then you just eat something. So I really dig the fact that we have this glowing eye, and we have this very predator-looking form compared to the tiger forms that we have with the default druids. To be honest, the forms when it comes to the druids are very, very outdated, in my opinion. So I do think that Blizzard needs to do something about the forms when it comes to the default ones as well. They're probably not going to do it because a lot of people, they really like the old-fashioned, I guess, vanilla forms. That has been updated, I realize, but they still look very basic and boring. So this right here looks a lot better than what we have with the other races. So that's just my opinion. And of course we shouldn't forget about the tank form. So as a Guardian Druid, you're going to have this turtle monster, and we're just going to go ahead and test it out on the target dummy as well, just so we can see how the animations look like when we do get in combat. So we're going to walk up here, throw off a couple of attacks, taunt the target for a little bit.
Too far away. I am out of range.
Now, one thing I did notice here is that when we use Mole, we do get this bear-looking thing that jumps out at the enemy. So if we were to use it here, you can actually see we have a bear coming out, which doesn't really match up with the turtle thing that we're playing as right now. So that might be a thing that has to be updated. Maybe they are planning for it, but I just think that it shouldn't be a bear if you're playing as a turtle. Guardian, Druid, Mole, spell has a bear coming out from it, and not a turtle monster. Submit bug. And now we reached the point where I showed off all the different attacks and all the different animal forms and such things in combat. Wait a second. Are we not missing something? I think we're missing something. We did not test out our healer. Let's go ahead and heal this training dummy as a healer and see how that actually looks like just as a default Zandalari woman. So with our training dummy over here, we're just going to go and test this out and see how the healing spells look like. Again, I'm level 20, so I don't have all the spells, but you should sort of get an idea about how it looks like when I start using my spells. And with all this said, let's go ahead and test out some different emotes we have when it comes to the Zandalari Trolls, because we also have different emotes we can use. So let's just go ahead and test out some of the different ones here. This is /roar. Then we have /laugh. Oh, you silly little thing. Then we have /silly.
Evolution? No. If you ask me, elves are a giant step backwards. Elves? Humans? No thanks. I cannot trust any race with that many toes. Ah! What makes the Zandalari superior? 2 words. Good posture.
And this also gives you an idea about what exactly the Zandalari Trolls do when you do actually write /silly, which is, of course, giving out a couple of different jokes and different funny things. Now, I don't really know what they have against humans or night elves, but as you can tell, they don't really like night elves or just elves in general. So, yeah, let's just go ahead and leave it at that. The next one we're going to go and test out is /flirt.
You could say I am a double threat. Hexy and sexy. I am a proud woman of Zandalari. I do not date slouches. We should sail away to a deserted island and get to know each other better.
Ooh, I don't think that would be wise. So these are some of the different emotes we have when it comes to these sort of things. Now we do also have non-talkative emotes, so let's just go ahead and look at some of the ones that doesn't require talking, such as sitting down, kneeling down, that sort of thing. So we'll just say /kneel. Then we get the default kneeling animation. It looks very similar to just other races that we have. It would say /sleep. You can see we look like this when we're falling asleep. You can kind of tell that the eye is glowing from behind the eyelid. So there is sort of a, I don't know if that's a glitch going on, but you can kind of see the eye behind the eyelids. Again, not something game breaking, but just a small observation here. We do also have /dance, which is very important to test out, so you can actually see how the Zandalari women, they actually look like when they dance. And of course we also need to take a look at the males. So if we were to take the male and show some of the emotes, we can also see how they look like. So let's go ahead and say /roar. Let's go ahead and say /laugh. Let's go ahead and make a few jokes. /silly. Let's actually go ahead and write that correctly. There we go.
Don't let the door hit you, or that good Noah split you. Need to name a city? Do what we do, and put Zul in front of a random word. How lower can you go?
Oh, very low indeed. Let's go ahead and test out the /flirt.
The ladies call me Zandalicious, baby.
A little bit conceited, I think.
Are you casting a spell? Because I have a fetish for you. I may stand upright, but I know how to get down.
Okay, so now that he just said he wanted to get down, let's go ahead and test out the kneeling and the sleeping animation. So we'll say /kneel. Again, just a very default kneeling animation. /sleep. And it just looks very basic. And again, I can't help but notice that the male also have a few places where it sort of pops out with the glowing eyes. But again, you could say that's something that's just supposed to be there, because you can't really, we can't all, when we close our eyes and sleep, we can't all have completely closed eyes, so that's something that's just bound to happen from time to time. So I'm actually okay with that. Let's go ahead and check out the dancing animation. And to be honest, I have no idea where that dance comes from. I don't know with the female either, but I can kind of tell how that would fit into sort of a Mayan Indian, like, you know, Indian culture. But with this one, I don't really see what that's supposed to be. But again, kind of cheerful, so not a bad dance, if you ask me. So these are all the different things you can do with the Zandalari Trolls, at least when it comes to the PTR server, as I'm testing it out here. I couldn't really think of anything else to show, so this is what's gonna have to just sort of be in this episode. If there's anything else that you guys want to see, then go and leave them in the comments below. I might do a separate episode just showing off some more things when it comes to the Zandalari Trolls. But for now, this is what I want to show in this episode here. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.